CBS, once the bastion of journalism, right? Well, I mean, the network of Edward R. Murrow, right? The home of 60 Minutes for so many years is the place you tuned in on Sunday night to see, oh my gosh, this investigative journalism. They're not going to stand for the corruption. They're going to go right after and cover these stories regardless of how this might affect them, right? That was CBS. So on Friday, it was interesting because CBS tweeted out, do we have a copy of the tweet? I don't know if we do or not. No, that's not the tweet. But so CBS on Friday tweeted out that they had a new documentary. We don't have it, Philip. Don't worry about it. So on Friday, CBS tweeted out that they have a new documentary that's going to be airing very, very soon called Arming Ukraine. And it was a little teaser trailer that they tweeted out on Friday on their Twitter account. And a number of Republicans were jumped all over it and said, this is great. This confirms what I've thought about all of this money that we're sending to Ukraine, that it's a total scam, that we're sending money we can't keep track of. And in this little teaser trailer, CBS said 70% of everything we're sending, we just can't find it. That was in the teaser trailer. So Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert specifically confirmed, they said that this was a scam. They said here's a story. 2 GOP congresswomen have cited a media report showing the most weapons shipped to Kiev aren't making it to the front lines. Republican lawmakers are feeling vindicated for opposing a $40 billion Ukraine aid package after a CBS News report showed that only 30% of the Western weapons flooding into the country are actually making it to the front lines. Okay, so you think, great. This is great. CBS does this story. They're doing a full documentary on the amount of waste and abuse of all of these taxpayer dollars going into Ukraine that's winding up on the black market and not even going to fight the war. This is amazing. This teaser trailer has now been taken down off of their website. They're now pulling the entire documentary, and they're saying we might release it at a later time because of all of the backlash from the liberal lobbyists who went after them, the neoliberal lobbyists who went after them. If you go to their website now to find that, this is on the left, you could have seen the teaser for the documentary on the left side of your screen. Now, when you click on it, Arming Ukraine, page not found. The page cannot be found. You can't find it at all.
So they accidentally told some truth. Mm-hmm. They didn't mean to, right? And they are being accused of being pro-Russia because people who want to support this conflict don't want to hear anything negative about Ukraine being disorganized or possibly losing their fighting force. And so we can't have that, right? It's just against the narrative, so take it down.
No, and this is exactly, so Lauren Boebert tweeted this. She said, how many people were called Russian bots for saying this exact same thing back in March? She tweeted this. How many people were called Russian bots for saying this exact same thing? Now, when CBS says it, it's perfectly fine. Whatever the case, glad the facts are out now. The majority of the Ukraine aid is a scam. So
clearly it's not perfectly fine.
No. So this all sounds great, right? Like, wow, CBS did their job. They did some great reporting. They actually talked to people involved in the arms process in Ukraine, confirmed that a huge portion of all of the money and aid is not going to Ukraine at all, but is in fact, we don't know where it is, or it's being sold in the black market. We can't find it. But now CBS has removed the documentary under pressure, and now you can't find it. But we still have a copy of the trailer, which they've also taken down. So we have a copy of the trailer, which is the CBS Ukraine trailer. Let's take a look at what they tweeted on Friday, which has now been disappeared. Watch.
In the past 2 months, we've moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine at record speed. Drones, grenade launchers, machine guns.
We're seeing this incredible, historic flow of weapons coming into Ukraine. Do we have any sense as to where they're going?
We don't know. There is really no information as to where they're going at all.
All this stuff goes to the border, and then kind of like something happens, it kind of like 30% maybe reaches its final destination.
30%? Are you concerned about weapons getting in the wrong hands?
I don't care at all whether that happens.
What sort of a unit do you command? Can't say. Okay.
There are like power lords, oligarchs, political players.
One of the biggest targets are convoys like this transporting weapons.
Вот там в поезде мы ехали, только что въебались туда, прямо в поезд. За деревьями. Europeans had come to believe that that project of integration had effectively meant the banishment of armed force. All of a sudden, not far from the borders of the EU, was the most significant war since World War II.
You can watch it now. CBS reports arming Ukraine, but you can't watch it because we now deleted it and removed it. Now, later, overnight at like 1:30 in the morning, CBS tweeted like a little follow-up to basically say, we're just holding it. We're going to release it at a later date.
Yes, they're saying we removed a tweet promoting our recent doc arming Ukraine, which quoted the founder of the nonprofit Blue Yellow, Jonas Omen's assessment in late April that only around 30% of aid was reaching the front lines of Ukraine. Since that time, Omen says delivery has improved, so they would like to update this and let us know, actually, no, it's not so bad. Additionally, the U.S. military has confirmed that Defense Attaché Brigadier General Garrick M. Harmon arrived in Kiev in August for arms control and monitoring. So we're updating this documentary to reflect this new information and air at a later date. Okay.
A later date. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 32% now, I think, is what they're.
Oh, 32. Yeah, it's been updated. Oh yeah, we talked to, and that's not just, I mean, they talked to multiple sources. So they're just throwing this one person under the bus. You know, think about all of the people that we've talked to here on this show. I mean, who have intelligence community access, right? And talk to the intelligence community, and they know we can't track this stuff. We don't know. And here, by the way, it's showing up on the dark web. Here it is. You can buy these javelins. You can buy howitzers. You can buy all this stuff on the dark web. You want to pay $50,000 for this thing? It's all right here and available for you.
I think I heard 3 people say it in that documentary that they weren't getting there. Not just one person, the person they're throwing under the bus.
Well, there was only one person who gave that like 30%, right? But the rest of them said we can't track it. We don't really know. One guy said he didn't even care, right? So, okay, when we get to, again, the tax story later on the show today, I care as a taxpayer.
Yeah.
You know, when we're writing those checks.
Well, and then think about all the money that's going to Ukraine. So this afternoon, we got word that another $1 billion was going to be sent to Ukraine over the weekend, of course. But now even more is, so that $1 billion here on your screen, that's a $1 billion weapons package, but then an additional $5 billion. So they tacked on another $4 billion since this weekend to send to Ukraine. So again, these reports and you know, Lauren Boebert and what's her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, I'm not voting for this stuff because it's a scam. And so here's what's going now in this here's the details of the new money that's going to Ukraine in this new package. This new weapons package includes additional ammunition for high mobility rocket systems, the HIMARS, 75,000 rounds of artillery ammunition for those 155 millimeters, mortar systems, National Advanced Surface to Air missiles, another 1,000 javelins, which will probably wind up on the dark web again, 50 armored medical treatment vehicles, Claymore anti-personnel munitions, C4 explosives, medical supplies. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this number here, it says the United States has now committed approximately $9.8 billion in security assistance since the beginning of the Biden administration. Although that number is much higher when we talk about the private military contracts that are just posted to the government website every single day as if that is discretionary spending. You don't need to look at that, right?
Yeah. I'd love to hear what our viewers think about this. I mean, do you agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on this, Lauren Boebert, that most of this is a scam? I think we've shown you the evidence that it is. And CBS was trying to show you the evidence of this, but I think, you know, what lobbying groups stood up and said, hey, CBS, we're going to pull our funding. The money that we give to you in form of advertising and other ways, we're going to pull it. You do not air this documentary. Get rid of this documentary. Make it go away is basically what they were told, right? We'll see, though. If it comes back, it'll be edited. We'll see if it's watered down.
But separately, other mainstream media sources have been saying something very similar. So, you know, this is not a narrative. This is a narrative that the administration is going to have to work hard to continue to whack-a-mole, right? As it continues to somehow want to open its wallet and want all of us to support this, even though, again, people are dying every single day.
Well, and this is just another testament as to why you want to pay more attention to independent media, because this is them silencing truth that gets to you. I remember, do you remember, Clayton and Natalie, the 2020 story? They were tracking milk. They were going to be talking about how dairy and cow, like mad cow disease and stuff like that. And the dairy lobby actually lobbied the channel and got them to remove this documentary on milk because it was going to hurt their sales. So that is what drives our narratives from the mainstream media, is money. If it goes against a narrative that's going to cost these big corporations money, they pull it. And so that's all we get is watered down news that corporations approve, basically.
Yeah, I remember in local news, I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. When I was in West Virginia, I was in local news, and there was a big story with a big car dealership at the time. And the car dealership was well known, and it was responsible for funneling money to the news stations, right? They would buy advertising all the time. When you're in local news, all of the advertisements are like, come down to Crazy Eddie's Car Emporium, da-da-da. Every commercial block is for car sales, right?
Yeah.
In local markets. So that's a huge source of revenue for these local little affiliate television stations. Well, there was a big story with one of these car dealerships where the owner did something nefarious. There was some issue, and we were going to report it because it was all over the place, and we were going to cover the story. And our general manager at the time said, don't cover the story. We're not doing the story, because he had gotten a phone call basically from, the car dealership. If you do this story, I'm pulling my funding. I'm pulling my advertising, basically. Yeah. So guess what? The station didn't run the story. We didn't do the story.
And that's small local news. How much does that happen, on a national scale?
Well, it has to happen a lot, because if you think about it, think about it. Rachel Maddow alone, $30,000 a day was her salary. They got to cover that. So they have to have those advertisements. Otherwise, because everybody has these bloated salaries, you got people taking limos to work, they live this lavish lifestyle, and so you're paying for that. And if that's threatened, because they're not getting the viewership that they used to, so they're 100% reliant on these corporations to pay for that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Rachel Maddow. There was a Vanity Fair article about her this morning that I thought was really fascinating look at why she wanted to stop doing her daily show Monday through Friday. Because she's 49, her body no longer can take doing this amount of news reporting. But at the same time, how she was asked about the Steele dossier and why she went all in on that, and why it almost felt like, and I did watch Rachel Maddow pretty consistently for a good part of my third pregnancy. And, I did feel like she was almost promising me that Trump was his downfall was coming basically any day now. And I had to tune in the next day to see how close we were going to get to that thing happening, because it felt very soap opera-ish, right? And she said, well, there was this, she gave an example of something that happened with Dan Rather. I can't remember exactly what the story was.
The Bush documents.
The Bush documents, that's what it was. And she said, just because that document was fake didn't mean the story was. And she didn't, I thought it was really...
So she's justifying so the whole Steele dossier is a total fabrication.
Yes.
By Democrats and Hillary Clinton. But the story is real. So her conviction bias was so
that
strong.
She still believes that the Trump administration had close ties with Russia, and that there still is something there, right? Which I do think that the Trump administration did actually commingle with Russia in a way that, in the end, it seemed like a lot of ignorance. They didn't know, you can't meet with that guy. You can't take this favor, right? That's a whole other bag of worms. What's the whole other ball of wax?
Yeah.
Whole other...
Yeah. Pandora's box.
Whole other cat's pajamas.
Yeah.
But yes, I think, what she's saying now is that cable news is morphing into something, and we had this voice at one time and we don't need to have it anymore. And now we're competing on the platform that was where newspapers were basically 15 years ago. And so cable news is dying. We know these big salaries are going away. That's why she has this sort of multimedia deal where she's going to do podcasts and movies and books, and then only be on the air for major news, because she does feel like there's the writing on the wall for cable news. And I don't know if she accepts responsibility for that, because there's no credibility there anymore, right? So when we get to this Roger Waters story later, it just feels like you've lost your credibility because you are entertainment products, right?
Optimistic in our chat says, wow, she's a former Maddow viewer. She probably still has much more deprogramming to go through. Do you feel that? And that's a good thing. That's a good question. I mean, you would watch Rachel Maddow a lot back in the day.
I think that I was very addicted to the drama of it. Like every day I thought that I was going to get closer to seeing something happen to the Trumps. And I was absolutely convinced at the time that they were guilty. I don't feel that way anymore, but I really worked myself up to feel like they did, and it was addicting, and it played into my own conviction bias, right?
But at the end of it, like after you had made that realization, did you blame Rachel Maddow for that, or did you blame corporate media as a whole for that? Like, do you now not respect her, or do you still feel something for her?
That's a hard question because I really felt like it's not that I don't respect her. I do feel like I was like a lot of hot air was blown in my direction, and I
But how can you still respect her when she knew? She knew,
and I guess I should say respect as a journalist, not as a person, because I've seen her as a person, and she does some good things, But as a journalist,
as a person, that's a different animal. Right?
Well, it's interesting. She talks about her relationship with Tucker Carlson, right? Because they worked together. He hired her. He was her first on-air boss. And they still have a really good friendship. And they talk about how they both do the same thing from reverse angles. Like try to engage their viewers, try to tell a story, try to paint a long picture. They both write their whole first A blocks themselves, right? They both have a lot of conviction and they have a lot of respect for each other, even if they don't respect each other's politics. And I think that there was something in that really spoke to me, as what we try to do is like tell a narrative, ask questions, but really they paint big pictures, right? And they're like, this is the picture you must accept. And I think I want to offer our audience a big picture, but not tell them exactly how to see it, right? And so I think I was reading it from that perspective, and how she's done a good job of using historical perspective to tell stories in a way that people weren't used to before, and I'm glad for that. But I do feel disappointed that I was led down this rabbit hole, and now that I'm sort of through the looking glass, I feel differently.
Yeah, I mean, look.
I don't know. I don't know about mad.
We all grow, right? And we all learn. That's what our mission on this show is, to present you with the facts. And we follow the facts wherever they go. And if they show us something that maybe personally we wouldn't like to see, we present it and show you.
Yeah.
We're not Democrats. We're not Republicans. We're independents on this show. I think we think both of these parties are absolutely corrupt. And so, remember, all of the Republicans spend just as much money, if not more, than Democrats, and Democrats spend a ton of money and get us into these wars. And so both of these machines, they're part of one corporate machine that is fueled by this corporate media. So it's like we're up against this beast. And there are people that will literally sit and put on like CNN or Fox, and they'll just turn it on and they'll leave it on all day.
Yes.
All day.
Well,
and they just sit there
and
like
I think
drones.
That was my grandmother. I'd go to her house and she had Fox News on with that ticker all day long. But anyway, one thing that is like when you realize that the system is corrupt, but these people are just doing this a lot of times for a job. Because I remember when I was running the Ron Paul campaign and we were doing some interviews and stuff, some of the news guys that would be on the air talking and answering questions about the negative side of the Ron Paul campaign, as soon as the mic was off and they were walking by with their cameraman, they'd lean over and they'd go, Ron Paul 2012. Like they were Ron Paul fans, but they couldn't be that on air because they were so scared, because there's a narrative that they are forced. And you said you didn't really deal with that at Fox, right, Clayton? You never really were handed and said, hey, you can't say this.
A lot of the things, though, that we cover on this show are things that I just bought into for a long time as like, no, that can't be, Clayton. That's fake. That's not true. And the more you go down this rabbit hole of researching for yourself, you have to break free of this narrative yourself, right? So, like I said, I was all in on this. Oh, yes, Trump did something wrong. This is a real scandal. This is the end of our country, right? And then now I feel completely different. And I see these January 6th hearings, and I'm like, this is a media circus. And this is the media trying to reclaim what inflamed us all during the Trump years. And yeah, I feel burned by that. Absolutely.
I think the mark, and I told Natalie this recently, I said, I think the mark of an intelligent person is the ability to be flexible. Like if someone is inflexible, run away from that person. Like if with facts are presented to you and you can't then alter your opinion of it after facts are presented to you, run away from that person. That's a dangerous person. And so, we all learn and grow. There's stories I'm constantly shocked by, or I see like a different side of it as I do even more and more research on a particular story. We should constantly be learning. We should constantly be thinking. And I got news for you. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes every day. So,
yeah.
Well, and that's why I really respect the Chris Hedges and people like that are like so willing and so determined to tell the truth that they will walk away from a corporate job just to do that. That's a rare thing, because a lot of them, you get into that lifestyle, you get comfortable, you're not going to make that kind of money anywhere else, and so you're kind of stuck.
Yeah. It's called golden handcuffs, Yeah. That's the sad state of affairs. They get allured by this idea of the mainstream media, and they don't think, look, we're independent, right? We don't have any corporate overlords on this channel with any billionaires telling us what to say. We get to do our own show and cover the news that we want to cover, that we think is important, and that is not going to get coverage in the mainstream media.